Tropical rainforests play a vital role in containing global warming, but a study has found that the world's forests are still disappearing at an alarming rate, despite international pledges to halt and reverse deforestation. Almost half of the loss is happening in Brazil. Its new president set a goal of ending deforestation, the question being, can he achieve this ambitious goal?
This patch of land may not look very tropical, but it's actually part of the world's largest rainforest. Scenes like these have become more and more common in the Brazilian Amazon. Millions of hectares razed down illegally to make space for cattle pastures and soy fields, among other things. Almost half of the tropical primary forest lost last year was in Brazil. That's according to a new study by the World Resources Institute, a global research organization. The report found that on a global level, rainforests lost an area roughly the size of Switzerland in 2022. That's 10% more than the year before. And it means we're rapidly giving up on one of our best tools to combat climate change, because tropical forests absorb massive amounts of CO2. In Brazil, environmental experts blame the last 4 years of soaring deforestation on former President Jair Bolsonaro. His administration weakened the agencies monitoring environmental crimes by shrinking their budgets and pushing out staff.
During the last 4 years, Amazon was a place without law.
But Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who took office this year, wants to end illegal deforestation in the Amazon by 2030. And he has a good track record. When he was president 20 years ago, his government reduced deforestation in this rainforest by 80%. It expanded protected areas and strengthened authorities to crack down on these spots. Now Lula's administration has further developed its action plan.
The aim of the plan is to relentlessly combat crimes such as illegal occupation of public lands, mining, logging, illegal hunting and fishing in indigenous territories, and to give environmental protection areas to the Amazon as a whole.
But challenges remain, not least a powerful agribusiness bloc in Congress that could hold back new environmental laws.
I find it very hard to really reach that zero illegal deforestation in 7 years. But on the other hand, it's important to set ambitious goals.
And people around the world will feel the climatic consequences if these goals aren't met.
So that report was by Beatrice Cristoforo from the DW Environment, who's here in the studio to talk more about it. Good to see you. The last line of your report lands heavily. We will feel the consequences of climate change if we don't stop deforesting our rainforest. What exactly does that mean?
Well, ideally, when we're not destroying large swaths of rainforest, these tropical forests act as massive carbon sinks. So that means they absorb more CO2 than they emit. But for example, in the case of the Amazon, scientists have found that it's now a carbon source as opposed to a carbon sink because of all the trees we've been destroying, but also because of all of the fires, which have huge emissions. And these are often set intentionally for cattle pastures and plantations. So what that means is that there's more CO2 in the air that heats up our atmosphere, and that makes extreme weather more common and more severe. So floods, droughts, heat waves, all these are intensifying because of this.
So beyond the matter of global climate change, what effect does deforestation have on these localised areas and climates?
So what the experts from the World Resources Institute that brought up this report stressed several times is that what happens in the forest doesn't necessarily stay in the forest. So for example, the further we move in there, the more contact we have with wildlife and the more likely it is that viruses from that wildlife might spill over to us humans and cause another pandemic. Or if we go in there to mine, that contaminates local rivers. So for example, in the case of gold, that's a lot of mercury that's going in the water and contaminating fish. And obviously that's terrible for the indigenous people eating that fish. And beyond that, when we have fewer trees, that makes surrounding areas hotter and drier, and that just compounds the effects we're already seeing from climate change.
Right, so clearly there's a lot to be worried about. I wonder, are there any developments to be hopeful about?
Yeah, I know that was a lot of doom and gloom, but the report also highlighted some positive examples. So for example, countries like Indonesia or Malaysia saw a reduction of how much forest loss cover they lost last year compared to 2021. And in the case of Indonesia, that's really important because it's a major player and it saw a reduction of 60%. So there were several measures in place. One was that they have a permanent ban on granting licenses to clear primary forests for logging and plantations. They're also monitoring fires, preventing them. But experts are saying, globally, the trend is still not good, and we need to be treating, or world leaders need to be treating this as the emergency that it is.
Beatrice Christoforou from DW Environment, thanks so much.
Thank you.